capitalization rate or the cap rate. That's the rate. Now understand this, when it comes to percentages and that kind of the rate stuff, those are always annual numbers, okay? And we've got to make certain that we're using the same units of measure as I had said to you previously, right? So if we take a look at this problem here, it says, what would an estimate of value for a building producing $11,250 of annual income? Sorry, I don't understand why it doesn't want to work for me tonight. All right, 11,250 annual, so I don't have to mess around. These aren't monthly figures, whatever. And my cap rate in this case is 9%. I think I got it better over here. Okay. Wow, every time I change the slide, it doesn't want to draw anymore.
This is number 5.
So in this case, again, our net operating income is 11,250. 250. Our cap rate is 9%. We divide 11,250 into 9%. What do we come up with? 125,000. All right, so that's what we would value this property at. Now we're going to run into some of these problems where it's going to give you a whole bunch of other information so that you have to figure out what the net operating income is. Not that tough. You'll be fine. Relax. Okay. Question 6 is a proration question. Okay. Proration, as we talked about in the past, just as a concept. All right. Proration means like in those circumstances, look at it this way. Let's say that I filled the tank with oil before I sold the house, and I sell the house to you. You think I'm just going to give you that tank of oil? No, you got to pay me back for that tank of oil. You're going to be the one that's using it. Does that make sense? So far, so good, at least conceptually. All right. This is the same concept. If I have paid the taxes through the end of the tax period, and you're living there at the end of the tax period, I want my money back. Right? So the things that you got to be careful of when you're looking at proration questions, particularly with things like taxes and with things like interest payments, you got to figure out whether they were paid or not, and then make your calculation accordingly. You'll see what I'm talking about. Read the question carefully. If the question says, with taxes, or calculate the proration through the closing date, that means that the seller owns the closing date, okay? If it says to the closing date, the buyer owns the closing date. Now, here in the back of the book problems, that one day might make a difference. In the test questions and stuff, probably not. When it comes to these kind of proration questions, they're like nuclear war and horseshoes. Close is good enough. Okay, so if you come up with something close, you're all right. All right. So on our first problem here, number 6, it says, the sale of the home is to close on September the 28th. Included in the sale is a garage apartment that rented for $350 a month. The tenant has paid the September rent. So the tenant has paid rent through the end of the month, as you can see. What's the rent proration using actual days and prorating through the date of the closing? So the seller owns the closing date, right? So seller owns all this time, and the buyer owns this time. Okay? The seller has paid already. Excuse me, yeah, so the tenant has paid already. So the rent proration, first thing that we got to do, so we got to figure out, here, let me go down here. So I got $350 a month, right? I got 30 days in September. So that means my daily amount, my per diem, is $11.67. Hold on, I messed up my notes. So the buyer is entitled to those last 2 days, right? That's when the buyer owns the property. Excuse me. They're entitled to this period right here. So obviously that's 2 days, right? 2 times 1167. And if you take a look at the problems, there's only one answer that could possibly be, right? Once you have figured out that it's only 2 days, there's only one answer it could be. It's that 2333.
Yep.
Capiche? More or less? All righty. Let's move on to question number 7. Listen, any questions about that stuff? Any questions, comments, complaints, anybody?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Marjorie.
Just to make you guys laugh a little. You talked about the oil. So we just bought this house in June, and I just got home from work, and there's no propane.
Nice. So there you go.
My house is so cold.
There you go. I can remember when I bought that house on South Road. It was the same